Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for clicking on the video as always. We are back in the forest. It's the first weekend of September and things are just starting to get that tinge of autumn to it. Although saying that, it's still very much like summer here at the moment. It's nearly 20 degrees this weekend. So yeah, we're just gonna have kind of a classic Highland Woodsman, just overnight in the woods. I'm just in my local forest in Loch Ness. You've seen me here so many times now, and I think you've seen me in this specific spot 3 or 4 times. It's just a nice spot, it's easy. We're just gonna have a relaxed overnight, get back into the swing of being in the woods. For this trip I've got my nature hike inner tent, my ticket to the moon tarp, I've even got my one tigress chair, I've got my Bitty Big Q grill, I've got my Bushcraft Essentials bush box, I've got a gammon steak, I've got square sausage for breakfast, I've got coffee, I've got hot chocolate, and of course I've got Darich as always. So all the favourites. Oh, and I've got some whiskey too. And some of you will be pleased to know that Forest Thoughts is back this week too, so if any of that interests you, please stick around and I hope you enjoy the video. That's the tarp up. I've just kept the front high, which gives me loads of space underneath, keeps the air flowing. Like I say, tonight's going to be really warm. I think it's only going down to 14 or 15, so it'll be nice to get that air kind of blowing through the mesh on the tent. The guy line on this side wasn't quite long enough, so I've just got a short section of paracord, attached it to the guy line, wrapped it around the tree and just done a standard trucker's hitch just to get the tension, so that should hold. And yeah, I'll just place this under the tarp. Loads of room, might need to shift it around a little bit just so it's maximising the space. I'll peg this down just now and yeah, good to go. Right, that's camp pretty much set up. The sun's gone in, it's getting quite cloudy, but there's still that breeze, which I'm quite thankful for, because I think it would be getting a little bit midgy without it. I'm going to collect a little bit of firewood. I've got the bush box with me, like I said earlier, so I don't need a huge amount, just enough for cooking dinner tonight, breakfast tomorrow, and maybe just create a bit of smoke this evening. And yeah, then I think I'll go and do a little bit of foraging. I passed 2 or 3 quite big patches of chanterelle. They're out at the moment, and there's quite a lot in this forest right now. Must have been just the right conditions this year for them. So hopefully I'll go and collect some of them, and I'll have them with dinner tonight too, just with the gammon. And I've got a bit of rice, nothing fancy, but it should be good. Yeah, so these are what's known as chanterelles. They're quite a common edible mushroom, especially across Northern Europe. You'll see a lot of people collecting these in Scandinavia and so on. And they're normally associated with kind of damp birchwoods, which we don't really have a lot of here, mature birchwoods. And we tend to find them more in our damp sort of timber plantations. They seem to quite like the damp floor of these sort of close, dense pine plantations. They do quite well in Sitka spruce plantations as well, because that's very dark and moist and perfect for mushrooms to grow. But like I said earlier, the weather this year, the conditions must have just been right to promote a lot of growth. And in this forest here, it can be a bit of hit and miss, but it's very good this year. I'm no expert at all on fungi. I know a few. I know this one very well because it's quite easy and they're really delicious to eat. But obviously, if you're picking mushrooms, if you're not sure, just don't eat them. It's as simple as that. Yeah, to celebrate being back in the forest, I'm going to try the old birchbark fire lighting. Always makes me laugh a little bit because, south of England, Scandinavia, North America, you see people doing this, and the bark on the birch really is just like paper. Sometimes you only have to look at it and it lights. But here in the northwest of Scotland, where the birch are kind of all twisted and gnarled, and the bark's actually quite thick, so it's not always easy to find a nice sort of papery piece to scrape and try and light. So we'll give this a go. I've got a little bit here, and then I've got some extra bits to to light from, so we'll give it a go. Well, I definitely missed this. I'm gonna get dinner on. So I've got the gammon steak. I'm just gonna do that straight on the grill. I've got just some boil in the bag rice. I'm just gonna do that. Put a bit of water in this kettle, and then I've got the chanterelle mushrooms, and I'm just gonna lightly fry them in this pan, and I'll try and sort of do it all so it all syncs up and I can eat it together. For the mushrooms, I normally just tear them up roughly, then lightly fry them to get some of the moisture out, because there's quite a lot of moisture in these. Drain that off, and then just keep lightly frying them with, you know, some seasoning, maybe a little bit of oil, or butter's quite nice. I don't have any butter with me, unfortunately, but I'm sure it'll be fine. That's good. Right guys, that's 20 past 10 now, so I'm just going to get into bed and go to sleep. It's been a very pleasant evening, very mild. I don't think I saw one midge the whole evening. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'm not going to complain. But yeah, I'll see you in the morning. Morning folks. I slept very well. It was mild, but with all the mesh and the airflow, It was really comfortable. Go on in. Oh, that breakfast was so good, and the coffee too. I really enjoyed it this morning. But I think I'm going to call it there. I'm going to get packed up just now and head out. But thanks as always for watching. And if you want to stick around for Forest Thoughts, please do. But if not, I will hopefully see you on the next one. Hi folks, thanks for sticking around for Forest Thoughts. Now, it's all well and good people saying that, you know, forest is important, we need to increase the amount of forest, we need to plant more trees, but it's important to understand why. So for this Forest Thoughts, I'm going to hit you with a few figures just to try and, you know, give that context and importance and just add another kind of thought process into the mix in terms of why, you know, why forests and forestry is important for all of us. In terms of forest cover, so forest cover is the percentage of land in the country that has been designated as forest. So that could be a native forest, newly planted forest, it could be forest that has been cut down but it's due for restocking, you know, it's still part of forest land. It could be high forest, timber plantation, you know, any kind of forest is, you know, is classified as forest cover. At the moment, forest cover in Scotland is 18%. In the whole of the UK, so that's Scotland, England, Wales and Northern Ireland, forest cover is just 13%. The European average for forest cover is 30%. In countries like Sweden and Finland, who are, you know, two of the most forested countries in Europe, if not the world, Sweden's sitting at 70% and Finland is around 75%. Okay? So I'm going to break that down a little further. So 50%, half of that 13% forest cover in the UK is non-native timber plantations. Okay? The other 50% is native, but it's mostly made up of small fragments of, you know, native woodland, hedgerows, that kind of thing. We've obviously got some larger clumps of native woodland remaining in some areas, you know, the Cairngorms, Glen Affric, that kind of thing, but most of our native woodland is very small and fragmented, but if you add it all up together, it does form 50%, but only of the overall 13%. Okay? And lastly, only 2.5% of the total land area in the UK is covered in ancient woodland. So woodland that has existed since 1750 for Scotland. Is it 1600 for England? I can't quite remember. But it's existed continuously, since then. So it's as close to undisturbed forest as we can get. So only 2.5% of that is left, and again, very fragmented and spread out. Bringing it back to Scotland, 18% of the land is classed as forest. Now that's 12% lower than the European average. And to add a little bit more context to that, I'm going to put some population densities up on the screen. So the Highlands alone is around 9 people per square kilometre. Now if we compare that to some of the Scandinavian countries who've got a much higher forest cover, you've got Finland and Norway at about 15 people per square kilometre. Sweden's a little bit higher at 26 people per square kilometre. And Scotland as a whole is actually up at 70 people per square kilometre. But if you look at the size of the countries, Scotland is considerably smaller, with around about the same population, especially as Norway and Finland. So it's understandable that we're quite a bit higher. But if we look back at that figure for the Highlands, at around 9 people per square kilometre, it's actually one of the least populated areas in the whole of Europe. Yet it's got some of the lowest forest cover. In summary, we've got a lot less forest cover than European countries, but also fewer people. So there's a lot of space. So the UK as a whole has to import 81% of its timber and wood products to meet the needs of the population. 81%. So we only meet 19% of our wood product needs from homegrown, timber and forests. That's it, less than 20%. Now, out of that 81%, the majority of sawn timber actually comes from Europe, Scandinavia and Finland. 24% of our hardwood imports, which is usually like furniture or flooring, that kind of thing, comes all the way from Brazil. 60% of our plywood comes from Brazil and China, so you're talking halfway around the world. And 60% of the wood pellets that we use in all these sustainable, renewable boiler systems actually comes from the United States of America. So hopefully, if you weren't aware of that already, then you found some of that quite shocking. And I guess that's kind of the point I'm trying to make here, that not a lot of people think about where our wood products are coming from, and certainly the majority of them are not coming from our own forests. They're actually coming from halfway around the world. Just because a product is wood based doesn't automatically make it sustainable. It's very easy for us to install these wood-fired wood pellet burners and tick all the sustainable boxes in this country, but over in the United States, huge areas of forest are being cleared and made into these wood pellets, and then being shipped halfway around the world so we can burn them. That's not sustainable. You know, not at all. So I guess the overall point I'm trying to make is that you often hear about the benefits of increasing forests and woodland for ecological reasons and habitat, and we should absolutely do that. I'm not saying that, but we should also be trying to increase the productivity of our forests, because we can't get away from the fact that we need forests. You know, we need timber and wood products as a society. That's just not going to change. You know, you can't not use any wood-based products or cut, you know, no trees. But I suppose one of my frustrations is when it comes to forestry is we tend to find ourselves stuck in this narrow band, and we get into arguments over whether it should be sort of commercial, whether it should be non-native, whether we should be reverting it back to native habitat, you know. And it's a relatively small area that we're focusing on. But outside of that fence, there's thousands of hectares of deer forest, upland grazing and grouse moor that is contributing virtually nothing to society as a whole. And in fact, it's holding the land back massively ecologically. Whereas you've got something like timber and wood products that pretty much everyone needs to use, and we can only fulfill 20% of our needs because we can't find the ground to grow enough trees. I think I'll leave it there. Hopefully I made my point, and hopefully I didn't confuse you with all those facts and figures. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, please leave them below. Please go and check out the website and the blog. I've got a couple of blog posts up there now already. There's been about 30 people signed up to the sort of email newsletter thing, so I really appreciate that. I've had a couple hundred people actually coming over and, you know, looking at the website and visiting it, so really pleased with that too. Hopefully it just keeps increasing. But yeah, I'll leave it here for now. The wind's picking up quite a bit, so hopefully you can still hear me. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.